Thank you. Just a reminder that this meeting is recorded to conform with open meeting laws. If at any point in time you do need to step away from the camera, we can call a recess. We'll do that. I'd like to, let's see here. Yeah, well, I guess we'll start with the minutes from last meeting that we had. So if you in your packet there, I handed them out.
I sent them down. Sorry.
Get done that way. Oh, so here we go. Sorry. There's yours.
Were these online?
The minutes have not been posted online. We'll approve them tonight from last meeting, and then they'll be publicly available.
We can share these. And I did add something at the, please add review and vote required council roles. The last bullet, Laura volunteered to be the secretary.
Yep, and we'll go over that as one of the agenda items to discuss the roles and.
Oh,
Is there some
on the
changes?
minutes of it.
Oh, yeah.
Before you can approve.
Yep, okay, very good. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right, so if you want to take a minute to look over the minutes, I apologize, we didn't have them online to review and we didn't send an email out prior to this meeting, so if you want to take a minute, just look through them and then we can vote to approve them.
Where should minutes go before the meeting?
I used to send them to the town clerk.
Yes, the town clerk will post them
Before the meeting? Or after they've been approved?
after they've been approved.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Is that the same right place still?
I'm sorry?
I'm curious, is that the right place still?
Yes. We have up to 60 days to submit minutes from the previous meeting, from the meeting that they're targeted for. So if you meet once a month, it's 2 meetings. Our schedule's a little different because we don't meet on a regular basis.
I thought reviewing them would constitute business, so I didn't send it out ahead of time, but should I have done that?
We can if you want.
Okay.
Yep. As a courtesy, in the past, when I've done things, I usually send them out, but, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a machine that we're still fine tuning, so. Yeah. This is for you as well. So all set?
Yeah.
On minutes, all right. I'd like to motion to approve the minutes.
As amended?
Yep.
I second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
I have to abstain because I wasn't here.
So you're not sworn in yet?
I'm sworn in, but I wasn't at the meeting, so I can't.
Okay.
I can't
You're-
adjust the meeting
You're
minutes,
correct,
so,
yeah. Okay. Yep. All right, so we'll check that off the list. You'll send them off to the treasurer, to the clerk.
So it's like 302 is what the vote would be.
I'm sorry?
I think the vote would be 302, because are you new to the committee as well?
Yes, but I haven't gone.
He's
Okay.
not, yeah,
Okay.
well, yeah, that's on the agenda.
Okay.
So he's technically not part of the
Okay.
council.
Tony
yet.
said October 2nd, I think was the.
Yeah, so, yeah, that'll be on our list here. So, the second item of business is the council membership statuses. I'm still waiting on a resignation. So your application, they talked about, but they didn't vote on it, because Connie, they already gone through your application first and approved it, and since the resignation had not been processed yet, they weren't quite sure what to do, and I told them to put you on as an alternative. So since the other person won't be present, you would automatically be bumped into the spot 5. So they're gonna vote on it on the second, then you'll basically, have to go in, you'll have to do conflict of interest training, and the clerk will send you all that information, as well as going into the clerk's office to get sworn in.
Okay.
Yep. I think that's it. There's no other interests, that anybody has to report for council, correct? No, okay. My wife did post out a Facebook post last week, so there may be some others that might come in. We'll just, make sure to tell them that it would be an alternative if you do, get communication from that. All right, grantee updates, recent events.
I'm sorry. Can we just maybe go around and introduce ourselves?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, thank you.
That's okay.
Thank you.
I mean,
Yes.
I think I know most of the people here, but
Yes, so,
I don't
go
think I
ahead.
have met you.
Yep.
So I'm Connie Strickmatter, and I've recently been appointed to the Cultural Council, and will eventually be putting my nomination forward to be treasurer for the council.
Yay,
So-
would you spell your last name for me, please?
I sure will. It's STRITTMATTER.
Thank you. And welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Who are you?
I think you know me. I'm Joe Moisen. I live over on New Templeton Road, and yeah, just excited to join the group.
Could you spell your last name for me, please?
Sure. MOISAN.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Laura Foley. I'm secretary and PR person, so I've been updating the website and putting out notices on Facebook for applicants for grants and for members of the council. And this week or weekend, I will be posting actual pieces of paper up around town, because I know that not everyone's on Facebook. So, it hasn't, it's a little hard for me to get back used to Facebook, but a lot of people are using it, so. But I do want the word to get out, and I'll get the electronic sign linking to get more people to understand that there's free money to be had if only they will apply for it.
Free money, I like that.
And
If
that's
you-
actually what Ams will talk about as well, for the, yeah.
If you do need any help with the Facebook page, I can chip it there.
Great.
So,
Yep. Cool. Jonathan Brinker, 3 Roland Woods Road. I've been a member of the Cultural Council now for 1 term, or 1 year, first term. I'm currently the chair for the council.
And I'm Bob Cronin. This is my 3rd meeting, I think, 3rd or 4th meeting, and I'm still pretty new, I think, in the whole operation, but I'm enjoying the situation. So,
Nice. Cool. And we have guests tonight,
I'm Lori Engel. I live over in the Pinecrest area, and I'm the outgoing treasurer. And I'm just trying to make sure we have a smooth transition between Connie and I. Trying to make sure that things are not a headache for her or for Jonathan, and that you have good numbers to start off your new year.
Thank you.
excellent, and thank you for pointing that out. So we'll move on to recent events. I actually participated in Field Day as well as Connie, correct? Right, the Lions Club. There were, I counted 4 grantees awarded that participated that day. The Lions Club had 2 stations, 2 STEMI. One was a rocket ship, ball rocket kind of thing. It was really cool. They did oobleck and slime as well. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. Henry the Potter was there. I think it was his 4th time there, he commented. He had a little setup there next to the gazebo. And then the crop dusters were the 4th grantee that had participated in that event. So in your packet I hand out tonight, there's a list of grant applications. The ones that are in bold are the ones that we approved. And when I was going down the list today, it looked like there was only 1 left on this list that's still pending, and that would be Dennis Cormier. And he has on the books for December 15th. So we'll keep our ears to the wall on that one and figure out when, where, and all that, so.
so he's on this list someplace?
He's me next door here, I believe, yep.
It's number 19.
Oh, yeah.
Number 19, yep.
Songs of Yesteryear, right?
Yep. And he's done it before as well, so this will not be his first time with the with the group there. Yeah.
And when is he performing? When?
Sorry? December 15th. I don't have a time yet, but it's gonna be next door here. It came through an email thread that Bill Shea had shared out with us.
He's very entertaining.
Yes, yeah. Yep. So this is a summary, by the way, of all of our grants that we processed from 2023, including the ones that we did not award. I like this because this is a quick guide. It doesn't have all the information in it, but it's a quick guide to check
One
off, get
page.
names. Yep.
One page.
One page, it's one page, right, exactly. Some of the other financial ones that we'll be exposed to actually are quite bigger and have more information that drive the different aggregates that we'll look at in a little bit later with the financial stuff. I think that's it, yeah, so part B of number 3, remain submissions, Mr. Cormier. And that is it for that. Yes, so we're gonna move on to the 2 roles. Right now, as of the last meeting, I was acting chair and the treasurer for the council. I would like to make a nomination that Connie be our next treasurer for the Hubbardston Cultural Council. Amy, do Amy have a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
I mean, I'll vote for myself, sure.
All right, cool.
I'll vote for myself.
I'll
Check
vote
them
for
out.
you back here. I don't count.
Do we need to vote on the chair?
You should.
Okay. I'll nominate myself for the chair. Amy, want to second that?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Boom, all right. Boom, dum, dum, nice and easy. All right, cool. So on to the treasurer's report. Or we can kick that down into the, I'm sorry, or I can do my bit if you want, or if you want me to read off the reports and all that, and
If you could, I'm sorry, I didn't
Yep.
realize I was
No, it's fine.
responsible
No, I can-
to do the reports tonight, I thought I had a bunch.
No, I had actually,
So,
so there are a few reports, there's actually quite a few of them. The 2 that we're gonna be focusing on tonight, main ones, are the one that I have to submit to the state on October 17th. In your packet, it looks very similar to this right here, just some missing information. Actually looks exactly like it. And one of the items we're gonna vote on tonight is also the administrative funds, box G.
That's just part 2 you're doing.
That's part,
You're talking part 2.
yes.
Part 1 is
Part 1 is
the municipal meeting prep sheet.
this one here, with the signature on it, yes. So this one here, I'll pass around, actually I have 2 copies of it. This one comes from our accountant that we feed off, you know, I pass that around. So every month, we get an internal report from the accountant that describes our activities, mainly the reimbursements and from the grantees, as well as any expenditures we have from the administrative operations, right? We take those reports and there's another Excel sheet here I can show you as well.
Can I have one of those?
Yes, this is the one that comes from the town accountant. Here we go. So we're gonna vote on the second part, which specifically the administrative fees, because we have to know that before we can figure out everything else. So, part of our agenda, actually, we were awarded $6,600 from the state. The reality is we're actually gonna have more than $6,600 for the grantee applications. It's kind of like a net. Part of that net is also administrative fees and any encumbered funds that from previous grants, if that makes sense. There's a voting worksheet here. We're just gonna be covering the administrative fee for that, correct? That's gonna be 5% off of our approved budget from the state, which is $600, which will equate to, I believe it's $330. Yep,
That's the maximum.
That's the
You can
maximum.
go anywhere in between
Correct.
0 to 3:30.
So I think last year we pulled the maximum $303, and I don't think we used any of that.
Zero, right.
So that money's gonna be coming back to us unencumbered and be rolled into our voting money, which will be happening with our next meeting. So tonight we're gonna decide on the 5%, how much of that, full 5, under 5, and then next meeting when we come back together, we'll have this voting report filled out and completed, which will give us the net amount for our voting. We'll also have the final numbers for this report, actually this one here, that I will be submitting to the state by.
That one's all set to go.
This one's all set?
Is that the one, what, does that?
This is the website one.
What does it say up top?
It says reporting period, July
The
1st.
title?
The title, calculate amount available for granting.
Okay, I'm sorry, that one's not all set, you're right. The municipal meeting prep sheet, that you could fill in today. That one's all set.
The one with the signature from our accountant.
Yes.
Yes, okay, so this is the one I'm gonna be filing, by October 17th. I'm probably just gonna hold on to that until a couple days before. It's an online form, it's fairly straightforward. We don't have to report all the shifting numbers on that. But the other one in your packet, this is the one that we have to decide on box G for, that will then drive this guy here. You wanna pass it down, take a quick peek at it. This is all, by the way, this is all filed electronically as well for us to view online. And after the meeting, I can discuss that with you guys and where to get all that. Anything that we do work paper-wise is gonna be stored publicly in the filing cabinet over there in the corner. For anybody that does want to request that information. Okay?
What is the September financial report that has to be,
It's actually the October 17th report. I had the
Oh.
dates wrong originally when I had built everything out. Originally, I think I saw somewhere it was the end of the month, the end of September, and then I went back and I looked and they had a submission date of, or due date of October 17th. And Haneko's very good with setting up reminders about deadlines and tasks to do. She does a very good job with that, actually. For those that have already signed into a Smart Simply, already have an account set up, you should be already receiving emails from the state for certain events, trainings, and whatnot. If you do not receive those emails, let me know, and I will make sure that we get them, because there are some cool trainings that they offer, especially for the treasury part of it, as well as for the voting part. So
Come back a little bit, what about something state simple,
So there's a system, and we talked about the last meeting, there's a system, an online portal, a grant management system called Smart Simply.
Smart Simply?
Yep, you may have seen an email come your way for that. The link should not have expired, so if you go back to your emails, I can forward you the link if you want to try it again.
Okay. Would you please? Yeah, okay.
Okay, I can do that. And actually down here on 6D, jumping around. Yep. So I actually had printed out somewhere. It's in my bag of the receipts that Sarah had from hers. I didn't look at the dollar amounts though, but we want to determine how much of that 5% we want to do. We want to take all of it, if we're just not sure, if, there's a set amount. You've been keeping track of what you've been spending, correct, on Facebook, correct?
0,
0,
yes.
okay.
So, because I didn't have any authorization to boost any of the posts, and what that means is that when you have a post on Facebook, let's say it's, come to my event, then people who are on your page, let's say there's 100 people, they might see it, they might not. If you pay extra, and it's, for advertising, it's very small amounts, so $10 might expand the reach to 500 people, who would then get the message to come to your event. So, a Facebook boost is a low-cost way to get more people to hear your message. And in our case, our main message, now that we have a quorum, will be apply for the grant, deadline October 17th.
Yep, so just so you're aware, October 17th is also the date when the application deadline ends, so they can no longer submit. And then we'll go further down the line here with the calendar when all those dates are. So right now we have $303 that are available to use. I don't know if we need to get you authorization, we need to vote on that, or is that just something as a group we,
You decide and then you vote on it.
okay, alright. We're also
I
gonna.
can tell you, you were asking about Sarah and her Facebook boosts.
Yes,
She had spent about $65, none of which was reimbursed.
thank you, okay. Do you know,
Those were- they were
I've
all
not talked
face-
with her,
They were all Facebook boosts.
okay. I need to follow up with her to see if that's gonna be submitted at all, or if she's still gonna follow that
She
up.
won't, I don't think she is going to.
Okay, so it's dead end,
It's a
okay.
dead end, yes.
Okay, so we have $330 at accessibly right now for operational costs. We can spend this money on really about anything except for food and drinks for us. So, I know, right? I was gonna set that coffee up and the donuts over there on that table,
Okay.
right? They're very explicit about that. It says in big bold letters, no food or drink. I forgot to bring them. Bill Shea had actually, a few years ago, had created these big posters, one with Uncle Sam pointing at you, saying, hey, we want you. And then there's another big one that he had printed out with cultural council information on that we bring to events such as Field Day this a couple weekends ago. I'd actually posted up right next to the piggy bank there, next to the trailer. But things like that. Paper costs, because I like cutting down trees, which I don't really. Binders, any sort of office supplies, things like that. Yeah. So, let me just do a blank authorization for you. Do we want to set a dollar amount? What do you expect if you did want to go that route?
Well, how many weeks do we have left? We have 4 weeks? About? So I would say $40 at least, because each boost is $10.
Okay.
So why don't we make it a nice 75, just in case? That way I can,
The other things are, I don't know if you could spend money on advertising events. I know the grantees are supposed to, but at times you might wanna try to, put up flyers or something to
Right.
get more people to attend. I don't know, that should fall on the grantees though, as opposed to on the council.
Correct. So on their portal, they give a landing page for all grantees for deliverables that they can pull, print out. In fact, Henry the Potter, he actually had a printout wrapped in laminate right next to his table there. But they're responsible for doing it themselves. They can come to us and we can vote and authorize money and materials if they do require extra help in getting the word out for such events. Yeah.
How's our attendance typically at events that we have funded?
So.
It
It
depends on the event.
Hit or
Yeah.
miss? Okay.
it's
Um,
about what you'd expect from a town of 4,000 people.
Yeah.
With 2 active people in it. So they're attended, they're not overwhelmingly attended, we don't have to turn people away,
Okay.
but they're attended enough to continue.
Yeah, it depends on the event. I mean, I like Greg Nashek, he does the pastels over at the library, the painting. I've seen, in some events, 6 people show up, and I've seen that room packed with 14 people. It depends on the night, depends on, even the weather,
We did an edible foraging at Ladybug Farm once, and the only people who showed up were myself and another council member. The gentleman who was running it did not advertise it well.
Yeah.
We didn't know, it was just, and then he wanted to sell stuff afterwards, which is
Yeah.
kind of a no-no. But so some things get, you pay attention to that and say, well, maybe we're not gonna have him back, it's a learning experience. But again, there was the wilderness trail hike that I guess went very well this year,
yeah, there's 8 or 10 folks that showed up to that.
so.
There's some that actually have called me up saying, hey, I'm by my lonesome here, where do I set up shop in town? I'm just a little guy, a one-man show, where do I go, what do I do? And I've actually encouraged, if you don't have a venue, hey, join the field day, join the you know, the summer concert series, for instance, right? Henry the Juggler, he joined in with Katie's functions, you know, for his, you know, the juggler's not gonna, you know, show up on a Saturday afternoon on the curriculum all by himself, right? You know, the bandstand, right? The performers, right? She usually racks up, you know, food trucks and other venues, you know, vendors, things like that as well to go with them. So we encourage them to tag along if they're a small operation, tag along with other venues in town to help out. So, all right. So I guess I make a notion then for $75 for Facebook.
For admin fees.
We're voting on
I think-
authorization, right?
Well, first we have to approve that admin funds of $330, or is that already done?
We have not done that yet.
You don't have to say what it's going to be used for, you
Correct.
just pick an amount that you want to have.
Right, so of the 330 that we already have that we not spend, that's what we're voting on right now, just to be clear.
No, you're,
Right?
no,
No?
you're voting on the new amount for the next fiscal year.
Okay.
'Cause
The other stuff rolls
330 is
over.
going
Already
back
is done.
into.
Got it, it's over, okay,
330 is
cool.
gone.
Alright, so we'll vote on then the 5% or less, and you had said 75. And then do we want to take more than that to support, we don't know
We don't know.
going in. I actually voted yes last year to take in the whole full amount because we were not sure, we had no idea what was going on. And to Lori's point, if we don't use it, it rolls over unencumbered to the next grant cycle for applications.
If you think you're gonna do a lot of printing or something, or if there's, maybe, like if there's a year where we were going to be recruiting, when Bill was gonna be making posters, you know, we knew people were gonna be leaving the group, then we made sure we left enough for, you know, extra money for that. It depends, and I have to get Connie the form for filling out a admin expense to submit.
Yeah.
Wasn't in any of the stuff we went over yet.
So it's kind of a, you're blindfolded, there's a moving target, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and the traditional ways of getting the word out don't often work anymore.
Right.
Very few people go to the post office, say, or even to the library. Typically, if I were postering downtown, I would go to the beauty parlor, the diner, Giacomo's, Hub Market, Mike's, Pizza Palace, library, post office, that's it. It's a very centralized, like 10 sheets of paper, $1. That's not a big expenditure. It does get some walk-in people, but maybe not necessarily the kinds of people who would necessarily apply for a grant. A lot of people like that are on Facebook, many are not. Some people drive through Hubbardston, so the electronic sign will reach some of those folks. A mailing can be effective, but only for people who live in Hubbardston, and we have people from outside of Hubbardston who want to serve the town with their performance, apply for the grants.
Yeah, we'll go over at the end, the qualification, just do a summary of the qualifications, so when we leave tonight, you know, before you start looking at stuff, you have an idea what you're looking for.
Yeah, so my point with that ramble was that the actual costs in getting the word out are minimal, because we're not doing a mailing because that's hugely expensive and not effective, because we're not necessarily targeting the right people. Facebook boosts are very inexpensive, press releases are free, the sign is free.
So also keep in mind that if we take the 5%, that's less money towards the applications. If we go 3%, then that 2% goes back into the pot.
Why is that? Because the $330 from last year didn't get spent, right?
That also gets rolled over.
Right, so that would mean that it would be $6,930, right?
So it would be 6,600.
It gets in,
plus
added
the-
in as an
yes.
unencumbered amount at the end of,
Yes.
after you've come up with the 66,000,
Yeah, so
6,600.
6,600 plus the 330 from last year, plus if we don't do the 5%, plus whatever that percentage that we don't allocate for ourselves into that as well. So like I said before, box G on the form, yeah, box G. that will affect on the voting report, which is over here. They'll affect a couple cells, a couple of boxes on this as well. So the whole number scheme will shift down depending on what we decide. And then what is unencumbered from last year. And we're actually gonna discuss that at the next meeting once we get all our ducks in a row, with reporting stuff. So,
Do we feel like $150 would be reasonable in case if things come up, knowing that we're still putting $80 back into the grant, 150 if we wanna advertise, and anything we don't use will come back into the fund the following year. Or
150 is
too much?
more than double what I expect to
Okay.
spend.
Okay.
Because
Okay, I
I
guess
most
feel
of the-
comfortable 75.
yeah, most of the
Okay.
expenditures, it's going to be a $10 boost every week leading up to the 17th. And $1 for coffee. I'll just do the flyers at my house, so that'll be free.
I guess there's the question about buying binders or buying
That
office
was- yeah.
materials, things like that. If everybody's willing to absorb the cost, that's fine. If
I don't plan on continuing paying for the paper. I would like to, at some point, if possible, start rolling some of that cost. I mean, right
Right.
now, I'm
I
out of pocket, and
would
I'm
eat
cool
it.
with that.
You can go through a lot of ink, believe me, if you need to, so. Sometimes you feel comfortable eating it. Maybe not everybody is, that's the only
Yep.
question.
Yeah, I would probably say 150 on my side, just for at least paper and other office materials, if that makes sense. We're probably not gonna spend 150 on paper and binders and clips, you know. I mean, I picked this thing up free off of a yard sale I was driving by one day, you know. I'm thrifty when I see stuff on the side, or I grab it, or it's like, it's good. So,
So
you know.
while we don't itemizing, it could be 75 for advertising,
So
75
one-
for, I know it's one time, but just trying to figure out, coming to a number.
Yeah,
You're thinking 75 for advertising, potentially 75 for
Yeah.
administrative expenses.
yeah, I think that would be reasonable. You know, I wouldn't mind getting another poster made up, you know, another foam board, whatever, potentially as well. So, all right, I make a notion then for 150. Second,
One second.
all in favor? All right, cool.
Question,
Yep, oh,
what is that money for again?
for operational costs, administrative fees, cost for paper, binders, advertising costs, if Ms. Foley decides she wants to do a campaign on Facebook. I don't know if Instagram has that sort of
Is
thing.
that typical of every year?
Yes, we had 4 campaigns that were done last year by our previous chair. Through Facebook.
Advertising campaign?
Yes, yep.
We use the Barry Gazette at all?
No.
Nope, that can be part of it.
Well, we have in the past,
Yeah,
but it didn't.
Yeah, the return on investment is pretty low
Very
with
good.
Barry Gazette. It might be higher with the Gardner News, but I think
Same.
that it's pretty nostalgic now.
yeah.
I subscribe to
Really?
the Telegram, but I don't advertise in it.
I don't know that and this is speaking back, cause we did stop doing the Very Gazette and the Gardner News because we weren't having the return on the investment. What worked sometimes was if they had a reporter potentially, want to work on something and advertise it, and they did a story on their own. But when we sent a press release to them, or something, it didn't seem to generate,
But on the other hand, press releases are free, and with a small paper like the Gazette and the Barry Gazette and the Gardner News, if you write the press release correctly, they'll just print it verbatim, because that's less work for them,
unless it's too long.
unless it's too long.
So we'll start again. I will notion 150 for the administrative fees. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Hey, all right.
I can't wait till I can raise my hand next month.
Oh, it's gonna be so great.
Oh, so you want a member yet?
No,
No.
not until October 2nd. Is that
So we're
right?
still with the meeting. So his application did go before the board. They couldn't vote on it. because they were not aware of the alternative position. So
I'm just in training this week.
we're just you
Well,
know
I think I am too, to tell you the truth.
we're just going with the flow.
I like that.
Well,
No, not to derail, but I heard you guys say Instagram. And for Facebook too, does the Cultural Council have their own Facebook page? Do we lean on like the Hubbardston People Facebook page? Like how
There
does?
is a freestanding Facebook page that was created by not me, but now I'm the admin of it.
Okay.
So I don't know who actually owns it, whose account it's on, or if the ownership of it floats around whoever's the admin.
It's either you and me. I don't know who. I'll have to find that out.
Okay.
But one of us are.
Right.
You can't co-own it, correct?
I don't remember.
We're both admins right now. I just don't know if there's a head honcho or if, yeah.
how do you judge how many come to an event when it takes place in a large field day operation with many people mingling around?
Yeah.
How can you possibly make some kind of judgment as to how many people have seen the advertising and come to the event? I don't know. What kinds of formulas do you use for that kind of thing?
Marketing is alchemy. Marketing is a lot of planning that you hope will have an effect, but a lot of it is just dumb luck. Because let's say you do a mailing, which is you send a postcard to every household. I'm gonna send 100 postcards and tell people about my event. If 10 people go to the event, that is considered a rousing success.
10 people?
That's right, 10% off of a mailing is a huge number.
That's a good
So
number, yeah.
that's, when you have a big giant campaign for a national company that sends you those postcards, they're getting a lot of people for that 10%. For us, we have a limited budget and a limited mailing list and a captive audience of people who aren't necessarily the target audience for this. So, that's why we're not doing mailings.
Yeah, and we also rely on previous, so some of them are returns, and we can judge based on how the attendance was on a previous year. We also look at what we feel would be interesting, right? If
Yeah.
like I have children that are tweens and teens right now. Well, I would know based on my children what would be popular out there, right? For anybody at this table has experience right in the world, you would know based on what your experience and who you live with, what you think would be popular.
And the key
Right.
thing was Jonathan said,
Yep.
you rely on past years. That's why we have people going to each event, so we
Right.
can see, it doesn't matter whether, part of it is, it doesn't necessarily matter whether our advertising got them there. We just wanna know if it's well attended, basically.
Yeah.
So that whether, it may have been our advertising, I mean, Laura's absolutely correct, sometimes it's a shot in the dark a lot of times, but if you go to something and you see Greg, who's the pastel painter, he has a way of pulling people in.
Well, he has a
And-
following too.
Yeah, and my
Yeah.
wife goes to every single one of his things, right? So another case in point, field day, right? We had a hurricane on our heels, right? There wasn't many people that showed up for that, but I know, basically what I saw with my children and the other children that did show up, that it was a pretty cool event. The bottle rockets and the oobleck. I mean, name me a kid that doesn't like oobleck, right?
What?
That sort of thing. Oobleck, slime, making slime out of
Oh.
borax and glue and everything. I mean, it's just awesome stuff,
Okay.
Yeah,
But back to your point, how do we tell when marketing works? You can't, unless you survey everybody, how did you find out about this?
Yeah.
That's why people ask that question, so that they can determine if a marketing vehicle that they spent money on is actually working and people say that they saw it, then they'll continue using it.
Yep. So Sarah Lyon last year did a survey. So every few years we're supposed to do a survey with the committee to figure out what our interests are. What do people want to see? And we did do that survey last year, and we can, it actually might be in that file. I have it, or in this binder right here.
Another group that I
Yeah.
was a part of, we would do a mailing, which was always very expensive, and we really probably shouldn't have been able to justify it. But one thing we would do would be to put on the postcard an incentive to have them bring the postcard back, and either they got dollars off their admission, or they got added into a raffle, or they got a freebie, there was some incentive, so we could see who was actually returning their postcards and see how many. And you could see that, you know, we're sending out this much and we're
Yeah.
getting this many back.
I hate to ask questions that might interrupt the agenda, you know?
If you don't ask questions, you can't learn,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, what if, you know, some groups and people have their own mailing lists, of their own publicity departments, and their own avenues to get people in? Could we use that kind of avenue in some cases that might be profitable to us to get people to their own publicity in some cases? I don't know, just thinking of,
People don't necessarily share mailing lists, they might, but it's, like if I sign my name onto a mailing list, kinda don't want it to be used for some other event.
So what I can do, so for instance, in town of Hubbardston, Hubbardston Center School,
yeah.
they're not gonna give me the mailing list for the third graders. What I can do, I can give them a flyer, paper, electronic, and have them blast it out to everybody. I know that it reached the community without actually knowing who was on that list.
What if we had, for example, a lot very expensive things that, you know, rather than a lot of small things that might spread the funds around in small ways? What if we had larger, expensive groups that would have their own built-in audiences? Do we have venues for that kind of thing that will be apart from a field day or something outside, you know? Have we ever used the Unitarian Church, for example, or the school auditorium for events?
Yep.
The school auditorium.
So, yeah, so actually, case in point, good point there. Every year, I think the Winchendon
The David
course, who are they, the music, so there's a Winchendon group, they do theater, I think. They apply every year.
Yeah.
Their venue is $20,000, but they put the total project's $20,000, but they'll ask for a certain amount from us, and then we will say yes or no to that amount, and it can be the full amount, it can be less than that.
Have we ever had them?
I'm sorry?
Have we ever had them here?
Yes.
No.
Last year they were, it's actually on
We
here.
support them, but we do not have an event by
Correct.
them.
Yeah, so let me find it right here, it's on the list.
Kinda like Quabbin Regional, we support the magazine, but they don't do anything for us.
So right here, the Winchendon Music Festival, the Winchendon Winds Incorporated. That's
There was no event though.
There's no event, they
They have their own event in Winchendon.
Correct, but when they apply, they also have to supply the full amount for whatever it is that they're doing along with the application. We will not fund the whole thing, we'll only give them or approve what they're asking for, which in this case was a very small amount compared to their actual event. So in this case, I'll actually read this off. Winchendon Winds Incorporated, grant application 30633, they asked for $100. That $100 was to sponsor 3 individuals from Hubbardston to participate in an event over in Winchendon. And we had voted yes on that because we wanted to support the 3 individuals who were in Hubbardston, because the goal here, and we'll go over this in a minute here, the criteria, the goal is to make an impact in our community. We prefer to impact local citizens first before
Okay.
we reach out to surrounding towns. We can approve anything we want that comes in as long as it falls into the criteria, but we prefer local first. So in this case, they actually had another application they submitted that was, I think, 2,000 or more. It was actually quite a large number that we said no to. But because they actually itemized it by just the Hubbardston folks and then the main event that they were looking for sponsor. Because the Hubbardston folks were in there itemized, we were able to approve that.
Yeah.
Because it made an impact on Hubbardston citizens. Yes, exactly.
Somebody's life here.
Exactly.
And you were asking, why don't we take advantage of somebody else's publicity machine to further the Hubbardston Cultural Council? Because it's theirs. So if, let's say, Henry the Juggler, we'll pick on him. If Henry the Juggler has a massive following, it would be nice if he said, oh, check out the Hubbardston Cultural Council because they have this, that, and the other event. That would be a courtesy that he could extend to us. But we can't rely on him to be our publicist, just as the grantee is not supposed to rely on us to be their publicist.
Hence the webpage with all the deliverables that they supply the grantee, so that they can do that on their own, right?
Okay.
Yep. Excellent. All right, so we just completed 5D on our agenda, administrative fee vote. Next meeting, we will have the voting, this voting report here all completed. And this will drive our dollar amount when we start to decide who we want to fund, okay? Moving on to the chair's report. Any questions about the program guidelines for 2024? There's a typo in that agenda, my apologies. I'll have to, would you be able to correct that in the minutes when you submit it, if you don't mind? I don't wanna throw somebody for a loop on that one. So, this right here, it's available on the Massachusetts Coastal website. This is the Bible. We follow this. It's actually very easy. Probably not very exciting reading, but it explains just about everything that you're going to want to know about Cultural Council, local and Massachusetts, in here for the grant cycle that we're part of. One of the shortfalls it does have is the financial reporting stuff, and Lori's done a great job in keeping that running, and we're going to get that torch handed off to Connie so that that ball does not get dropped. Because there are quite a few reports. There's 2 required ones by the state, and the rest are all internal. But the internal ones actually feed and help us validate the state ones. If that makes sense, because we don't want to send wrong information to the state and then have to, you know, fix it, right? So, for those of you that do have this, if you have any questions on this now, and we can talk about this again next meeting if you want to go over any information on that. What I'll do probably is do a last call for the agenda on the next meeting. If you want to slip something in that you want to talk about as well for that. Let's see here. Local guidelines priorities report submission. I submitted that at the end of the month. That was pretty easy. I handed out in the last meeting the text from the last year's grant cycle. We could not change that because we needed a quorum of 5 people to do that. However, Hanako, our rep out in Boston, said that we can just, as a loophole, just copy the text over from the previous year, and you know, we business as usual. Next year, if we want to change it and we have 5 people, we can actually change the text on it. It's pretty much the so Massachusetts Cultural Council has its own guidelines. We actually can augment those with our own values and guidelines as well, and that's what that is. So if you go onto the Massachusetts Cultural Council or even our town website and you click into our page, you'll see the text right there. Hasn't changed, I think, in 3 years. No? Has it changed recently? No. So you're shaking your head
It
because
changed once, I think, when we
Okay.
came in as a group in
All right.
2017, but I don't think it's changed since.
Yeah.
And just minor changes, nothing.
Yeah, it's pretty blanket stuff. It falls in line with what Massachusetts has anyways. It's not, you know, anything crazy. But us as a local culture council, we have the ability to form our own preferences for culture and what that means.
So,
Yep.
for the edification of our new members, can you describe some of the things that we as a cultural council do? I know that one of them is that it is supposed to benefit Hubbardston residents in some way. Is that one of our stipulations?
Yes, well, our main priority is this grant system that they give us money for, and we have to decide how that gets allocated. And they give us a guideline in the guide here in terms of how that qualifies. We can then instill our own values on top of what's already there, what we feel, right? Do we want to see more summer concerts? Do we want to see more craft shows? Do we want to see more Maychecks of the world? Do we want to, you know, if someone has applied for something new, you know, knitting or something, right? We've never seen before in Hubbardston, right? We may as a council decide, hey, that's something new. Let's try it, you know. You know, or if you know that there's a following out there for knitting or some other hobby, right? The point of having 5 members on the council to vote is to have a quorum that represents the town, if that makes sense, on those values. That's why each of us in our own right are very important in that voting process. Yeah, did that answer your question? I'm sorry, I'm long-winded. If I ever get long-winded, you guys need me to stop just banging on the table and
Oh, no,
That's all- that's all
I use
it
it to
takes?
take little vacations in my head.
Usually when I'm at work and the Google Meets, I'll usually chime the hand, hey, you get somebody's attention, so, yeah, sorry about that. So that report got submitted already. It's already up there on the Massachusetts Cultural website. That actually had to get submitted before the grant application started rolling in. That was one of the requirements. So in the guide here, there are dates for each phase of the cycle. Their requirements, and if you don't complete one, you don't get past go, and then the whole thing starts over again next year. So end of last month was a hard stop. We're actually, October 17th is our next hard stop. And then after that, it's pretty much smooth sailing until the end of the year, when we have to get our voting stuff into the state. All right. Massachusetts fund allocation for 2023. Actually, that should be 2024. Again, a typo. I am really slacking on this. I'm sorry.
It's hard to force yourself into the next year. I'm
I know,
sorry.
right? It's like yesterday, right? $6,600 plus any unencumbered funds, and we'll find out what that is the next meeting when we get all that figured out. We talked about briefly before, we have an online grant system called Smart Simply. Smart Simple, sorry, not Smart Simply. You're all set with your account, correct? Bob, I'll send another one out for you.
What does it do?
It's an online portal. You log in, you get to see all the grants for the year that
Okay.
people have submitted.
To us?
Yes. So when you apply for Massachusetts, when you apply as a grantee you want to seek money for your thing, whatever it may be, you don't go to our website, you go to the Massachusetts Cultural website, you pick what area you want, what town you target, and then
And some of them target every town out there.
yes, so there have been a few that just blanket every town on the Route 2 corridor. I think a couple of them last year we said no just because they weren't even close to our, they wouldn't even, we voted no because they did not they didn't meet the criteria of local priorities. I'm not gonna say the towns, but, yeah, so it's a grant management system. It is quirky. There are certain things about it that are confusing.
Quirky, clunky.
It's clunky. It gets better every year. They tweak things. They change the icons, move things around. This year's latest change, I think, was moving the profiles over to a separate web page and not. So when you go in and you click to find out, if you want to contact me, right, directly, and you don't have my phone number, right, or my email address, you can click and you can find my information. It's actually not where you think it is. The menu tells you to go here, and you get to the page where the contact information. Oh, click down here. Oh no, you want to go over to this section over here on the left. It's this weird hop you got to make now, and I think they're still trying to figure out, where to put
And
everything.
you're not exactly sure that there is a next page, sometimes
Yeah.
there's tabs up top which help to.
Software developers.
I know, right? Full disclosure, I am one.
Code monkey.
Those engineers that love to change things.
I
Right.
apologize.
And we designers, it just nix everything. No, it looks terrible.
Exactly. No, it serves a purpose. And when the application submission ends, you're going to have what they call a run book of everything in there, every single application, and we're going to go through that process. I have some pretty cool ideas on how we can make it simpler from previous years. But yeah, we'll see. Calendar review. So all the dates for our cadence is actually in this manual. I do have a Google Calendar I've set up. If anybody ever requests those dates, it's right here. It's not something that I really need to share out to the rest of the world because it's already on Massachusetts website. If anybody does need it, it's there. Our next hard stop is October 17th. That's when closing ends. That's when we have to get the final Financial, every year we have to do one financial report on October 17th or thereabouts halfway through. I think it's like a state audit type of thing. No reason why they require it. But that's also when voting ends. And then we have this weird period where there's a couple of weeks where nothing happens, and then there's a November 1st hits, and that's when we can start the voting process on all the grants that come in, or applications, I should say.
So it looks like that's, I've got an older calendar that you distributed earlier, and I'm seeing October 17th, the applications come due at 10:30 PM.
I don't know if it's 10:30.
It's 11:59.
11:59, all right.
Yep.
All right, we can get that fixed. Yep.
Wasn't it almost at the last minute that we were trying to help Katie get her application in?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The purpose was to kind of hopefully make things easier for everybody. This doesn't do a timeline justice. I mean, it's all there, but it's like, anything else, right? Very dry reading material. But this you can see, and we can add, change stuff to it. If we have a specific timeline that we want to achieve one of our tasks, we can put it on here
Have
as
you
well.
seen the grant cycle page where it lists, like, this month you have to do this month and this month?
Yes.
That kind of gives you a streamline in order of,
Yeah. I like this because I can overlay everything else in my life. Yeah. Yeah, we've accounted for each one of us and the family, so it really makes things easy to organize out. You don't have to use it if you don't want. If you want, I can bring one of these paper copies if you so choose. I can produce that for you. So we have until, how do I say this? We have to provide 2 weeks, so so there's two parts to the voting process. We first have to submit a list of people that we flat out deny because they did not qualify for their applications. That has to be done in such a way that they have 2 weeks to reply or answer to that denial.
To appeal.
Appeal, thank you. We have to give them 2 weeks to appeal. We would then have to meet as a cultural council to discuss and then vote on as to whether or not their case is valid or not.
and that just throws such a monkey wrench, because all your numbers are off now.
Yeah. And the reason why I'm pointing this out is because the acceptance list has to be done by January 15th. So at the very latest, we have to submit by the end of the year, basically. The denials. The nice thing about the denials is you click a button on the portal, you set everybody up, click a button, and off it goes. Massachusetts Cultural Council will reach out and do all that for you. The acceptance stuff, we have to send out information notifications of that ourselves. And the reason why is because we can tailor that acceptance letter to whatever our cultural values are based on that August 30th report that we filed with that information.
Like if you came up, when you were doing your evaluations of the grant, you said, well, we want them to do this, this, and this. Just this specific grantee, you can tailor their letter to have those added in, which is kinda nice. We want you to tell us. If they didn't tell us when their event was gonna be, we can say you specifically have to contact Jonathan
Yep.
and tell him that it's gonna be here, where is it gonna be, things like that, which
Yep.
it's not a straight form letter, but it's
Correct. I stole Donna's mail merge from the previous years, and I tweaked a little bit to updated it. On there, actually, good point. We have 2 blurbs, one for field day. Hey, if you're having a hard time finding a venue for your event, go to contact so-and-so for field day. Hey, you can also contact Katie, the town events coordinator. Maybe it's not field day, it's the one that happens early in the summer.
fair.
The Hubbardston Fair, right? Exactly. So there's 2 venues right there that if you're a small chop shop and you wanna, you can't support a whole event by yourself and you wanna kind of, have a side venue, like maybe that would be a good way to communicate that to them. It's also, to her point, customizing your, maybe there's something special about that particular, Yeah, or special circumstances that we voted on, not just that was on the application, yeah. Sorry, all right. So, yeah, so January 15th is, no, January 17th, I correct myself on that, because I did look at that today, is in here as well on that, I don't know where that is.
Page 20.
Thank you, you rock.
Thanks, man.
But not all the dates are there, if you notice, they're not all there, some of them
Right.
are,
Nebulous.
you have to dig through this to find the other dates.
Now, is this calendar, is this a Google Calendar or is this a Hubbardston calendar?
He has a Google Calendar off of my account right now. I
So-
would love to have the town set up some sort of cloud at some point in the future that we can,
There is.
oh, there is, for the
Yes.
calendar?
Yes.
Oh, that's right, yes.
In fact, I was goofing around trying to find it, but the interface for mobile is awful, so it's something I'll have to sit down.
But we have to go through the clerk for that, right?
I've
Or-
already, it's a function of our page on the Hubbardston Town website.
All right, well, let's, yeah, if you want, I can get you the information then, or?
Yeah, send
you
me
wanna-
the link to it
Okay.
again, cause I don't think I have it, and then I
Okay.
will make sure that it ends up there, so that that's our single point of truth, as they say,
Yep.
the one calendar to rule them all, so that we don't have a bunch of private ones.
Fantastic. I'll shut mine down. Cool, all right. Let's see here. 2024 budget, program grant budget. We talked about before. It's not gonna be $6,600, it'll be something else. And then we have to, all right, I guess we'll talk about that next. We actually touched base on it already, but I guess we'll start there. So on page 11 of the criteria, there are 4 main points to it. I just want to make a disclosure first about this. In terms of the grants, when they come in, when you get into the program and start looking at them, please do not discuss amongst yourself the grant applications when they come in. Save that for the actual voting sessions here, so we conform with open meeting laws, because there are very strict requirements about that. If we don't follow those rules, then we get in trouble.
Where do they come?
They'll come in through the portal, through the Smart Simply portal. You'll see them, actually, there's 3 there right now. The WINS folks actually have already submitted theirs, as well as Maycheck has already submitted his as well, but I'm not gonna talk about it, because we'll learn that next time we meet. But please, when they come in, start looking at them, familiarize yourself with them. One thing we've not discussed is how we're gonna do the voting process. We can talk about that now, what our ideas are, and then maybe when we come back, our next meeting, we can implement an idea, how we wanna do that. Typically, we've done a couple rounds, like round robin. We'll go through them all first, go through the criteria. Nope, this doesn't qualify, this does not qualify. And then I think the next round after that we did was impact. And then the round after that, I think, had to do very specifically with money and allocations, because we had, I think, 28 last year
27 or 28, yeah, there were a
28.
lot of them.
applications. Yeah, there were a few that were, yeah, it would've been nice to have that on the books, but we didn't have the money for it, so. Yeah, so criteria, page 11, 4 rules basically: arts, humanities, and sciences, public benefit, non-discrimination, and then local priorities. That's the one I keep referring to with impacting the community. And then the next section down talks about arts, humanities, sciences, the breakdown of that, what that means. We don't have anything in our LCC that elaborates on any of that, but it's pretty much, what we feel as a quorum would impact. Public benefit, right?
Do you want me to read our stipulations?
Yes, if you don't mind.
Sure. So, in addition to those things that John mentioned, the Hubbardston Cultural Council prioritizes applicants who have secured a local venue, projects that serve all ages with an emphasis on unique programming directed towards the interests of the community, projects that celebrate Hubbardston's history, agriculture, and rural character. And in addition to the criteria found in the local cultural council program guidelines, We'll be evaluating the applications against how well the program meets our local priorities, which I've just said, community support and involvement, evidence of track record and dedication of the applicant, evidence of being able to advertise and publicize their activity to the Hubbardston community, ability to address the diverse cultural needs of a community's underserved populations or support diverse forms of cultural activities, financial need, and demonstrated planning.
And where is that written down?
That is on our website, it's on the Hubbardston Town website. And it's also a portion of the Massachusetts Cultural Council website. So when someone goes to the Mass Cultural Council website and looks us up, that's the same wording that they'll find there.
Okay.
Yep. So they also describe in here applicant eligibility, what qualifies, what does not qualify. Good reading material there. Yeah, and then the, sorry, I went backwards with that. Then the criteria, okay.
I'll have to read that.
Yep, it's a good read. That section right there, that whole eligibility is a good section to read. And we're gonna focus on that for our next, when we do the voting. All right, any questions? No, just that you are aware, also, there is in here a section that talks about local cultural council funding their own venues. That actually is supposed to happen right now, submitting proposals for that. We're not prepared for that, and I don't think we're ready to go that route. Maybe next grant cycle, if anybody has a pet project, we can allocate up to 20% of our awarded funds to anything that we decide to run ourselves. There is different guidelines and policies that we have to follow for that, as of course, so that we don't get into trouble.
How is that not nepotism or favoring ourselves over the public? It's all explained in the Bible?
It is in here.
Okay.
There's a very clear guideline, what you have to do. There are checks and balances in place to make sure that we do not just take the money and run with it.
And buy
For
food
some-
Or give it to
beverages
your
for
brother or
ourselves.
something.
Exactly, right, exactly. Exactly, yeah.
New fire pit at my house, we're all invited over after.
That sounds like it's got a lot of
Yeah, exactly.
benefits.
I'm just saying, it's improving the culture.
Of your backyard.
That's right. Making it welcoming to everyone.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's great. I'm sold.
Okay, so I guess the hard part, and this is the part I was really stewing over, is getting the calendar dates in place, at least for the one next meeting, the meeting after that as well.
So when's the next meeting?
That's the question.
That's what we're gonna talk about.
I'm just gonna go peek.
And we
up
value
and
your
see
input.
calls here, okay?
Would the next meeting be after proposals are submitted and we start voting? So we're looking
Yes.
at in November?
Yes, I would highly recommend wait until after November 1st, because we're not gonna be able to discuss anything until November 1st, even though it's right there in front of us.
I'm for any time in November, I think.
Anything other than Thanksgiving week, I'm good.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's true, me too.
I'm liking Mondays, and I really like 7 o'clock, because that gives me time to eat my supper before coming.
I just finished cooking supper and then went, oh man, I gotta go. So it's still sitting in a pot on the stove. The kids and wife have eaten, that's all that matters.
So for me, Tuesdays and Thursdays are the best.
Okay.
I have one kiddo that's down in Holden for Scouts, and then I have the other two on Wednesday for Scouts and Gardner.
Well, since Tuesday, November 11th is Election Day, probably better to have it on the following week, the 14th. Is that too late?
Nope. We have
Yeah,
until
the
the end of the
library
year.
tour.
December, yeah.
We're okay on the 14th because that's a Tuesday.
We always meet on a Thursday.
We meet the first Thursday.
Yeah.
So.
I'm sorry?
We're meeting the first Thursday of the month.
Yes, the
Library
trustees.
trustees.
Yes, Morgan talked to me
Yes,
about
the
that
first
tonight. She
Thursdays don't
made
work.
sure that I remembered that you guys don't get left out on this discussion.
But apart from that, I'm free almost every night.
Yeah, the first Thursday of every month, correct? Yeah.
The 8th, 9th, and 10th are not great for me.
So how about the 14th? That's a
14th is
Tuesday.
good. 14th, let me just confirm that.
I'm not allowed to vote yet, but yes, 14th sounds great.
No, you're included in this discussion.
Okay.
For now.
All right, cool.
For now.
For now,
Yeah,
just
mind your
kidding.
P's and Q's, buddy.
That's right, I haven't been sworn in yet. They dig up something in my past, I don't know.
November 14th?
So, yeah, November the 14th.
Sounds good.
I actually have, there it is, the town calendar. Board of Health at 7 PM. I can ask if we can get the space next door, if you guys are okay with that.
Yeah, sure.
I recommend we have a plan B for that, if that does not work out.
Library basement,
Are we allowed to have meetings down there?
I've seen them.
They've used it before, I think.
Meetings
planning.
there,
I asked because I've been hearing from the staff here that they like this space, and this is really pretty much
Because we have to
preferred.
record it.
because it's very well equipped for recording.
Right.
Okay,
But if we have it over there, they're still gonna have to set up a camera.
correct. And she usually
she
tag
comes
teams
in.
between the rooms anyways, but I don't know if that's all right for having to go downstairs in a different building, or,
I don't know, I've seen municipal
Okay.
meetings there in recent times.
okay, so we'll try the senior center first, and then basement of Clark as plan B for that.
Are we thinking, how long for the meeting, 2 hours, 1 hour, hour and a half? I
As
mean,
long as we
I'm not-
want it to, well, so yeah, here's the other discussion part of that, right? So we can have the meetings as short as we want, as long as we want. If we feel that we are on a roll and want to keep going with it. Usually after 2 hours, a lot of us deers headlights just,
Yeah.
kind of, everything go blurry and,
And collect your wits and
yeah. So I would anticipate probably at least 3 meetings, 3 different rounds. The first round qualification, correct me if I'm wrong, we can change this later. We can change it on our next meeting if you guys want, it's just an idea. But the first round would be qualify, second meeting, impact, and then the third one will be the final one to button things down. We actually took, I think, 5 meetings last year, correct?
that sounds like way too many.
4 or 5 meetings. There were a few in there. Were there more than 2 or
There was more than 2, but 3 might have sounded
3
right.
maybe? Okay.
I thought we did it very quickly last year,
Yeah, okay.
but I could be wrong.
It also depends on how disciplined we are in our discussions. Yeah, so, I mean, we can knock out the calendar if you want for the next 3. We can do them a week apart. That's good. A month.
I was just thinking, that's another thing that is an added expense, and that is the panel book. If you have to print out the panel book,
Yep.
which is 160 or 70 pages.
However
usually.
many applications there are.
They say you're supposed to keep a copy here. What I had done in the past is I create the summarized copy.
Yep.
And it's in the pink book.
Yep.
I don't know if you're gonna do a summarized copy and put it in there, or try to print off 150 or whatever pages. Cause in the panel book, there's a lot of empty and repeat pages that
Yeah,
have no
yeah.
information on it.
Yeah,
That,
after doing the open meeting training, I'm definitely gonna keep everything in that file. You can, yeah.
So right now, what's
Sounds good.
next date?
So we have the 14th right now, and if we want, we can carve out some more dates. Or we can wait until the 14th to carve out the next one.
I would like
I think that's
14th.
a bad idea because with the holidays coming, everyone's
Yep.
gonna have their stuff planned out.
Yeah. I recommend at least 3 until the end of December. If we have to move it around, that's fine. We can also do that. Just be aware that it is hard to move a meeting with 5
Yeah.
folks around. Yeah. This meeting here actually was on its 3rd iteration of booking before we got it right, so it traveled around the calendar a few times.
Does the 28th work for people?
Yes.
The
The
Thursday
28th?
after, or is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving?
Yeah, that works.
Okay with me?
Yep, 28th, all right.
And then either the first or second week of December, get it out of the way.
Yeah, let's not go to the week of the 27th.
I need the day before Christmas, cause that's when I jam in all the shopping, you know, so,
Okay.
but, as long as everything else.
You're one of those guys, huh?
I was last year, it's no good.
Yeah, I don't like crowds.
Are we looking at the 12th then?
I like
Uh,
the 5th because it gives us time to schedule another one if we think we're gonna need
Yeah.
it.
I like that, yeah.
Yep, perfect.
So the 5th of December, all right. Let me just go back real quick and check my paper copy here.
Geez, was like the
We're
18th,
competing on the
12th.
28th with the Board of Health again, but that's fine, we can work around that if they allow us. And then the 5th is blank. Cool. Now, the other thing to remember is I cannot officially get these on the calendar until an agenda has been posted, so what I can do is post a generic agenda, and then we have up until 48 hours before the meeting to make any changes to it.
Okay, so none of these go on our calendar
Well, we,
until I hear from you?
Deleting from my
well,
calendar.
what'll happen, well, so that's the question. So if you have access to the calendar, but the clerk will put it on the calendar when I submit it, or if it's already on there, see, that's the question.
I could put proposed date or tentative date.
Yeah, we can't lock it in until the agenda's been posted, so,
What could we put together, cause those meetings would be almost exclusively for reviewing applications, right?
correct, so what I can do is I can do a blanket agenda with voting on it, and then at the last minute, if we have any hot topics we need to talk about, we can drop them in, we just, we can't do it at the last minute.
What was the second date in November again? Was it
The
27th or-
28th.
Okay, okay.
So, the 14th and the 28th, and then the 5th.
December 5th.
And that will give us then the 12th and the 19th as backups if we have to get more in. If there are any issues with electronic access to the grant applications online, please let me know. We'll talk about it after the meeting. We don't have to do it on camera. Actually, that light is off now. She may have turned it. Oh, should be like green or no light right now.
Darn.
I know, right? Yeah, so after we adjourn the meeting, if you do have any issues with accessibility and you want paper forms, or if you prefer another way of communicating, just let me know and I'll do what I can, okay? Anything else?
Will
No?
we adjourn?
How do we do that? I notion that we adjourn the meeting. And a second that.
Somebody seconds it?
All in favor? Throw the papers up in the air.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.